Hey, I'm Joshua with Oyoff Games, and today we're going to talk about probably the biggest mistake I've made so far and what I'm going to do to address it. And I'll also show you my latest Game Jam game and kind of do a retrospective on that. Yeah, cool. Let's go. And we're back. I know it's been a little while since I've done one of these. Frankly, there was just a lot of medical issues going on in my family with myself. Not to get too far into those weeds, but I had a tonsillectomy. One of my kids had a tonsillectomy as well. We've had COVID in our house. It's been quite the mess, and it's really slowed down my progress as well, to be honest. But hey, we're back on it. We're getting going. What else is there to do but to do it, right? So that's where I'm at. So the first thing I'd probably like to talk about is just where I'm at with Touchy Touch and what is left to be done. So let me just kind of put up here on my screen my actual list of things to do and kind of quickly go over that. So number one, I need another pass on sound effects. It's getting pretty close. It's sounding pretty good, but there's a few that are bothering me. They're not just quite perfect. I do most of that work in Logic on an iPad, actually. I find that's the easiest way to edit. I can sit comfortably on the couch or even in bed and just put my earbuds in and just work on sounds. And then I move them over to the computer and go from there. Let me put my dog down. Hopefully she doesn't go nuts. There's geese in the backyard, and apparently that is an affront to all that is good, in her opinion. So there she goes. So sorry about that ahead of time, but I'm not going to sit here and hold her the whole time. Let's see. Next on my list, it's over here, but it's over there for you guys, right? God, it's been a while. Yeah, it's right here. Okay, so next on this list is background music. What I want to do is have music that can come in and out that goes with the audio, because my sound effects and audio are very, very heavily focused on sound and tonality. Each of the things you touch has its own note, right? And they create a harmony when they're played together. I'm going to show you guys that in a minute. So the background music is going to have to be mostly percussion and percussive, and I'm working on finding a good balance where I can have some background sounds and music, maybe even some tonal stuff happening that's quiet and within the key. For all you music folks out there, you probably know what I'm talking about, but if you're not super into music and musically literate, key is basically like the sound of the chord that plays, right? So when you touch the objects in my game, there's a natural, it's kind of a major chord that ends up playing. It's really just an octave and fifths, to be honest, but it's a couple octaves worth too, so it gets real full. And then I think I have like some thirds and sevenths in the goal, but I actually haven't looked to figure out really what it is. I'm just going by ear because who cares, right? Like, so anyway, I either have to match that key with everything I do or just go percussion only. So I'm working on that. I'm not scared of it. It just hasn't been done yet. Next up here on this list, again, I keep looking at the list where it's on my screen, but up here, for the magic of YouTube, up here on my list, the next thing is writing the script. To be honest, I had a whole idea. I had a bunch of script written, and the whole premise was this sort of like you're being tested by a sort of uninterested employee for an alien corporation. It was like this whole idea that I had to create some funny moments. But with a lot of the feedback I've gotten on my Game Jam stuff, and also with some conversations I've had with bandmates about music and expression and art, I've decided the more true to myself thing to do would be to speak more in my own voice for the script. And by the script, what I mean is each time you complete a level, I want it to talk to you a little bit, to interact with the player. So, you know, you finish a level and you get a good job, but I want to go a little bit deeper than that, and I want to have a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, and I think I want to pull back the fourth wall a little bit. So my plan going forward for the script is to actually just write it in my own voice as if I'm speaking to the player between levels. Something that's inspired me there is the Beginner's Guide. It's the same guy that did Stanley Parable. If you haven't played that, stop watching this and go play that and then come back. At this point, it's like a few bucks. It's like 15 years old or something. I don't know, 10 years old. If you haven't played Stanley Parable, forget this. Forget everything I'm doing. Go play it. It's incredible. But anyway, the Beginner's Guide, it's sort of this weird meta-contextual game where you're playing unfinished levels, and is very inspiring to me when I played it the first time, and I kind of forgot about it, but thinking about this idea has brought it back up to my mind, and I want to kind of aspire to something like that, but maybe even less with a twist. Like Beginner's Guide has a whole thing about it's another guy's stuff, and it's a whole thing, but I kind of want to do that same thing, or for an example for film lovers, almost like a commentary track, right? I want to give commentary, but so I want it to be conversational like this, but it also needs text. So I'm working on that. If anybody has any suggestions or any thoughts on that idea, or if you think that's a poor idea or a great idea, I'd love to hear it. But that's my plan right now. So that is on the docket to get started, probably sometime this week. Next up here, I've got the final cleanup pass on the juice, which, game juice in video games, it's just a jargon for making stuff look and feel real nice. I've come a long way from where I started there. When I first started, maybe I'll throw something up here. Maybe I'll show you here in a minute. I didn't plan this very well. You'd think as long as I had to make this, I would have planned it better, but I didn't. My point is I just want to show you stuff, and I felt like it was time to make one of these to sort of hold my feet to the fire, because after illness, I've been a little slow getting back in, but also just because I know some of you out there are watching this and probably wondering where the hell did I go. So here I am. So I've come a long way on that, but I do have some cleanup that you'll see at some point or another. If I'm not showing it up here now, or if I don't get to it in this video, it'll probably be the next video, because I do have some cool stuff to show you guys, and it won't be a month and a half from now. In fact, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not even gonna get into the juice for this one. I'll show you guys that in a week or two. Next time I make a video, it's going to be about juice, and I'm going to show you all the cool stuff I've done, and I'll show you a comparison of where I started and where I am now. And I'll tell you where I started when I showed people the game, which mechanically it's exactly the same. I've added mechanics, but the core concept is exactly the same when I was using just like placeholder graphics, and when I show people now what I have, it's two completely different reactions. The sound, the visuals, all the elements. It's a totally different beast, and I get a completely different reaction. It's wild how much that matters, but obviously that matters. So I'm putting a lot of time and effort into making it look and feel just right, down to I was asking my wife just the other day. I had her comparing sprites that were 2.5 pixels versus 3 pixels. 3 pixels, right? 2.5 pixels doesn't make sense, but you can set sizes, right? So like basically, yeah, a 2.5 versus a 3. Or a 2, and we were deciding which one. I mean, these are the smallest little details, but they matter. They matter. So make sure, if you're doing something like this, don't skimp out on these last steps, the juice. Okay, back here, a save system. That's not hard, but I haven't done it. The games that I have done, they don't have a save system. They're a one and done. You play for 10 minutes and you're finished, so you don't need to save. So I do have to work that out. That'll probably be way late, one of the last things I do, but I will eventually have to do that. Along with the save system is menus. I gotta make the menus. And we're going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute, because as I mentioned, I've got a pretty big mistake that I have to work out and fix. And it's not with the coding. It's not with, game mechanics. It's more core than that. And we're going to talk about it. Excuse me. And then finally, sort of rolling into that, actually, I'm going to hint at it right now because we're about to get into it anyway. Ad revenue, or just revenue, maybe. Okay, well, let's look at it. So let's talk about my mistake, and then if you're still interested, you can stick around, and I'm also going to show you my last Game Jam game a little bit and talk about it and kind of what I learned or how I feel about it or something like that. We'll do a little retrospective. I'll pull it up here. But let me look. Okay, let's just get into it. Here's the problem. I've had this idea for this game for years now. I've been thinking about this particular game for a decade. There was a point where I had drawn out levels of this game on note cards at a previous job, literally 10 years ago. And it just sort of sat on the back burner because I didn't have the time or the inclination to work out how to make it, frankly. But now I feel like I can, so that's what I've been doing, obviously. But the game has always, first and foremost, just been about the gameplay concepts involved, like the game mechanics, the core game loop of what it feels like, the way the sound incorporates into your actions, and the visceral appeal of it. It's been lodged in here for a long time. So when I set out to make this game, I knew it would be cool. I knew it would be good if I could do it. If I could make what was in my head, it would be cool. I knew that. But what I didn't really think about is how this is embarrassing, kind of, honestly, because this should have been more prominent. But I never thought about the core mechanic of how to monetize it. I suppose I just always assumed if I made this game, I could charge a couple bucks for it, but I'm not convinced that's the smartest way to do this. So, because, I mean, if you put up a paywall, you're immediately limiting who's going to play it. So, my next thought is that there's two options. I can do like a free trial where you get the first so many levels, and I can kind of retool the first levels to give kind of a glimpse of what the game is going to be like if you purchase. And then I can add like a buy the whole game for $3 or whatever I deem feels appropriate for the work I've put in, and that I think people would be willing to pay. So that's option number one on the table, is just the first 5 to 10 levels are free, and then it tells you, hey, if you want to play more, you have to pay. Option number two is ads, right? Google ads or whatever, not Google, because this is primarily going to be an iPad game. I hope to make some slight adjustments and be able to port it over to Google Android tablets. The problem there is that Android tablets are all sorts of different resolution sizes, which means I'm going to have to tweak a little bit about how it decides where to lay everything out, right? If you've never made a game for mobile before, well, really for any system other than iPads and iPhones for the most part, you're going to have all kinds of different resolutions. And with this game, you know, the movement and how your hands fit are pretty important. So, you know, I'm getting on a tangent. I might work on porting to Google if it does well on Apple, but that's not really the point. My point is that the structure of the game right now does not really afford to have very many opportunities to supply ads to a player. You can't lose right now. As the game currently stands in its current form, you cannot lose. If you mess up, everything just goes back to start and you can just continue. And you know, let me show you guys let me show you what I mean. So, give me a moment. I'm gonna pull up a level here. So it'll come up here in a minute. I gotta actually like load in here. Okay, so up here is what I'm talking about. Again, I'm sorry about the dog. I don't know. I'm not gonna hold her the whole time. So it just is what it is, I guess. Here's an early level, level 3. And I've got this on my PC right now, and obviously PC, it's just a monitor, so I can't do multi-touch, so I can't even complete the level, but it doesn't matter because I don't need to show you that. Here's my point. If I try what I'm supposed to do here, right, so now in the game, the idea would be that you didn't touch the red one and you move it to its goal at the same time, and then you let go of both and you win. Here's the problem. If I let go of the blue, it just goes back, right? Which feels great because it gives you an opportunity to keep trying and go, oh, I did that wrong. So option number 2, here's what I'm thinking. Once you touch one of the orbs that you're supposed to move, if you let go, you fail. The other option might be to give 2 or 3 let goes before you fail. Maybe up in the corner I could put 3 little dots or something and they go hollow. That's one option that I'm thinking. Or just every time you let go, it just fails. And what that would do is that would give me a fail state. And after so many fail states, I could supply a Google ad or an App Store ad, Apple ad, or whatever it is. I don't know. It's kind of embarrassing that I don't know that yet, but you know, whatever the system of ads is that Apple uses, I could provide an ad at that point. So those are kind of my 2 options. One is a freemium, try before you buy kind of thing, and the other one is slightly more coding intensive, where I'm going to have to add a fail state and work through that, but possibly better for me. So I'll probably get more ad revenue and people won't feel like they have to buy the game to keep playing. And also, I don't want this to be a super long experience. I'm thinking around 50 levels, maybe 60 to 70. And I've got, about 25 to 30 built right now. And so I kind of feel like maybe the ad revenue version is better, because it just gives, I feel like if I'm charging a couple bucks for a game, I need to offer more than 50 levels. It doesn't feel quite right. Because if you get good, I feel like the levels are going to go pretty quick. Some of the fun in this game is the visceral ability to solve it, right? I don't think none of my levels are like brain-busting difficult. This isn't a game where that's the case. That's not what I'm trying to achieve here. The game is supposed to be satisfying, and it's not very satisfying to lose all the time. So on all my levels, I'm sort of skirting that edge between giving the player a little bit of a challenge and making them think for a moment, but I don't want them to linger and frustrate and stop either. I want them to feel like, oh yeah, that one was good. I liked that. Ooh, I liked how I twisted my fingers. That felt really cool. I didn't expect it, but then it worked, right? That's kind of the vibe that I want to get from this game, and it's what I've accomplished so far. So I feel like to just charge would just to play would end up making me feel like I should make more and harder levels to offset that cost of entry. Whereas if I do the ad revenue model where you let go and you lose and you have to click a button to retry and then you get an ad from time to time, I feel like I can use my script and commentary to hang my hat on it and say, hey, guess what? I need to eat too. Thanks for watching the ads, kind of thing, which I haven't seen anybody do and I think might actually be entertaining and kind of funny and interesting. I think most people understand how it works now, so it doesn't hurt to, point directly at it and remind people that, hey, this is how this works. And if I can do it humorously and in good nature and fun, I think maybe people wouldn't be particularly turned off by that. And also it lets people kind of make that choice themselves at any point, because obviously I would add an option for $3 or $2 or whatever to turn off the ads, so that we could also go that route. If somebody wants to just pay a couple bucks, they still can and get the same experience they would have got. So that's what I'm leaning towards, but I would love feedback from the people actually watching this who are kind of keeping track. What do you think is the better choice? I'm not going to make that choice quite yet. I've still got enough other pieces of the puzzle to work on to where I can kind of choose how to monetize closer to the end of the process, which is coming up. I'm getting pretty close to the end of the process, to be honest. Okay, so that's my big dilemma, and that's my big mistake, was that I really did not start off designing with how will this make money. I was thinking of it the way I think of traditional games, which is you make money by charging for the game, but that's not how the app stores work. I don't feel like that's a winning model. So I've got to do one of these two things. So that's where I'm at with that. Again, if you're interested in Touchy Touch and what I'm doing there, I'm going to make a follow-up video that will come out probably next week, maybe a little later. If you've been following me so far, you know that those numbers are hazy. It just depends. I do these when it makes sense, when it's appropriate, and not based on what I think the YouTube algorithm wants me to do. The algorithm says you should make a video at least once a week, but ain't nobody got time for that, right? I can't do that. Maybe I will at some point, but right now I'm too busy to try to do this every week. This takes, I know for you it's like 10 to 20 minutes, but for me it's like all day, a day and a half. Like I wish I was better at this, so it went faster. But anyway, I'm getting way off course again. So let's change gears, and I want to talk about my my most recent Game Jam game, which didn't perform that well in the Game Jam overall, but I got a lot of good feedback, and I really enjoyed making it. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to change gears here. The audio might change slightly. So we'll see how that goes. Here we go. Okay, I'm back. So I'm going to be kind of here and there. I don't know why I have to tell you that. It's obvious, right? Like, you guys watch other stuff like this, but it feels weird to me because I've created this relationship with this camera here, and then I'm like talking without looking at you. Like, I really feel like I'm looking at you. But anyway, so I'll be back and forth here. What you're going to see is up here, but I'm looking here. I keep pointing that out because it's weird, but whatever. Okay, so first of all, here's Gdevelop that I have open here. This is where I do my development. If you haven't seen this before, it's not quite the same. Like if you're used to seeing developers and they've just got the black with the code and it's like a jumble and you're like, what the fuck is this, right? Like that's not, this really, frankly, it works the same way. I've done a little bit of coding in my life, enough to understand the basics, and like I can look at someone else's code and sort of like work out what's happening. And I can code really basic stuff like, you know, hello world and make the guy move and little things like that. But I find it tedious, and I don't, this is probably more tedious, honestly, but it just works for my brain. My brain picks this up so easily compared to regular coding. I'm not good with non-English. You know, I feel like super like mono proficient with the English language, and any other language feels broken or wrong to me, which is just myopic and egocentric on my part, because it's the only language I know. But even when it comes to coding, I have trouble. It's just but anyway, so Gdevelop still gives me the ability to do most of the things that I need to do, or really all the things so far that I've needed to do, without having to worry about specific coding languages. It sort of takes some of that work out for you. So anyway, what I have here is just the title screen alone. And for anybody who's like into this stuff and like the actual development process, really, even the title, what I've done is just put on what I call queues. It's just a variable that just runs up over time. I've got it on a counter with a weight, and then it adds, and then when it, you know, so it starts at, you know, 1, and the camera shakes and some things happen after 6.5 seconds, you get a cue to add 1. And so that changes the variable to a 2. The game sees, okay, when the variable becomes a 2, you do this next thing, right? So it makes the thing come up. The first thing appears. You wait a little bit of time, another 6 seconds, the shake happens a little more, and then it adds another to the variable. So now you got variable of 3. So when the game reads that this variable has a 3, it does the next thing. It makes a couple more things appear, it makes some more things move. Each time the variable changes, something else happens, essentially. So let me show you what that ends up looking like. And then I'll talk over this as well a little bit about, you know, what's going on here. So this was the actual title of my game jam. Remember when 2000s emo bands used to title their songs with long sentences that had nothing to do with the lyrics? Why? I don't know. I guess you'll see that, like, I had this weird inspiration of like early 2000s, because I was trying to come up with a name, and I realized that I had been, I was really excited about this idea of like very simple emotional concepts being portrayed in a game in kind of a simple, easy to grasp kind of way, I guess, which then made me think of like early 2000s emo bands, because that's what they were doing, right? You'd have this like idea of a song, and it'd be like, a lot of it was very like this one note concept of an emotional loss or an emotional feeling, or, you know, sort of overly emotional, but also simply portrayed, right? So it's this deep emotion but portrayed very simply. So that's where this comes from. And, you know, I try to start right away with my sort of humor, I guess. This is funny to me, having a start button and then having an also start button. The theme for this game jam was 2 buttons, or only 2 buttons. So I tried to incorporate that into all of it. I took it very literally, and most people in this game jam, most people took it to mean 2 buttons, or like on a controller, or on their keyboard or the mouse, whereas I took it as inspiration for the actual content of the game. So I tried to fuel that into everything. So there's a start and there's also start. And honestly, they both do the same thing, but I think anybody could have figured that out, right? So we come in. And so all the audio for this is common, I don't know, what's that called? Where anybody can use it for anything, whatever. It's all open source, free to use, commercial, whatever, audio. Along with some things that I just did myself quickly. Like right now there's some background music. I mean, it's just like a loop that I created in Logic in like 5 minutes. Understand this was like a 3-day game jam, and I think I spent 1 day on it because I had other things I had to do. I had like a show. I'm in a band, and we had to play that one of those nights, and there's just a lot of stuff going on in my life. So I really had to pick at what could I accomplish and what could I get done in the time I had. This pretty straightforward, but I actually once I released this, I did get some feedback that people just didn't know what to do. I come from a tradition of gaming where you just try things. If it's not immediately apparent, the assumption is that there's something less apparent that you need to do, which I felt like I achieved making that obvious with a black screen here, with just 2 buttons. And when you push the buttons, nothing happens, right? You just get these sounds, a death knell and like a choir. So if you can't push the buttons to do anything, then what else can you do to them? Oh, you can drag them, right? And so, yeah. And my apologies if I spoil this. If anybody wanted to go back and play it, I guess too bad. Maybe stop watching. You can jump forward if you want to come back and play this game and try it before you watch what I have to say. I have the thing down in the doobly-doo, which, by the way, my wife told me I shouldn't call that the doobly-doo because that's John Green's thing and Hank Green, and like I shouldn't steal that from them. But those guys are brilliant, and if they say it's the doobly-doo, it's the damn doobly-doo, and that's what I'm going to call it. I don't care if it says description. The Green brothers say it's the doobly-doo, so it's the doobly-doo. Okay, so this one, I thought, hey, how about I do 2 more buttons, but they're doing something else. So again, I thought, okay, if you got this far, I can add a background because now you know kind of the gist. So I can add another element. But this one's backwards because you can't click fear. He runs away. You just can't get him. And what you have to do is try to get him until he runs off screen. And once he's off screen, you get courage. And the thing with courage is you can click him, and he turns on the light, which then fear is no longer afraid, and you can click fear, and you can move on. So then I took it another direction. I kept the same theme. I kept the idea of 2 buttons, but I changed it to 2 buttons. But we're still talking about these basic emotional issues, right? Sadness. And so the idea here is we have to button up, right? You got to button up, and then you can be fine. This is fine. Notice the audio. So I had it set so each time, I got a weird little glitch just now. It's a game jam game, but the audio keeps speeding up each time you accomplish something. But this is really it. That's it. That's the game. You've buttoned up. You've covered up your sadness. You're telling everybody this is fine, right? And then just a simple little end screen. So yeah, my whole point with this was really to try to push my ability to make something a little more polishy, which I'll say compared to most of the competition, I feel like I did a pretty good job of polishing this up by myself in 1 day. It plays pretty well. It's pretty interesting. And honestly, I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it, more than I expected to receive. So that was cool. It's averaging about a 7 out of 10 rating, but it's very mixed ratings. I have a few people who have given feedback who were very unhappy with it, thought it was impossible to figure out or hard to play or didn't understand what the point was. They hated the title. But to balance that out, I've got a lot of great, very heartening reviews. 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, that kind of stuff. This is the best game on here, which, it's pretty hyperbolic. There's pretty good stuff here on the Gdevelop site. I feel like the point that what I was trying to get across got across. So I'm pretty happy with it. There is a link that I'm putting down below if you want to go play it. That would be awesome. I would love to see other people go give it a try real quick and tell me what they think. Obviously, I kind of spoiled it all for you because that's the game. But, if you want to go check it out, go ahead. So, yeah. All right. So anyway, that's really it this week. I'll say again that next week I'm going to show you the juice for Touchy Touch, and we'll get back into looking at that. I'm going to pull up some of my early alpha stuff and show you that, and show you how ridiculous it looked, and show you where I've gotten to now. And then we'll talk about what's still left here in another week or so, if I made any more progress. But mostly I'm just excited to show you guys next week kind of where it's at and where it stands now. And again, that progression. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Any feedback you have on how I should go about monetizing my game with, the parameters that I explained earlier would be fantastic. And, leave me a comment about what you thought of, 2000's emo bands, my Game Jam game. I would love to hear some of that. Other than that, is there anything that you would like me to talk about? Is there anything specific in my game or in my process or my philosophy that interests you that you'd like me to get into? If so, leave a comment. Let me know. I am down for talking about whatever. I am an open book as far as this is all concerned. My failures, my mistakes, my victories, they're all for us to share in, basically. So just let me know, and I will do my best to make it happen. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a good time. Get out there and do something. Believe in yourself. Do cool stuff. Do some drugs. Wait, no, don't do that. You can. But, just go do cool shit, guys. See you later. Bye.